Kia ora. So here we're having a look at the ESP32. It's got the OLED display on it, and I'll show you the software shortly. But attached to this is an op-amp circuit that I've built, which is all described in the demo, the output of which is going to one of the ADC input pins. Okay, you can see this orange wire here, and this is reading the values. Okay, so let me just have a look at the actual code. So this is the program here. Temperature monitoring system. It needs connection to your Wi-Fi, okay, for it to fully work. I'll show you why. And then there's some definitions here for the switches and the LEDs, and there's a reading delay here of 5,000, which means 5,000 milliseconds. So you need to configure your Wi-Fi SSID. So that's the name of your Wi-Fi at home. Okay, I've starred this out so you can't see the name of my home Wi-Fi, and there's the password to get onto your Wi-Fi. Now what we're going to do is we're going to send this data through to Adafruit to the MQTT server, which is free as long as you don't send it too much data. Okay, it'll block you out if you send too much data, so that's why I'm only sending a reading every 5 seconds. You've got to set up an account, and I've set up an account called TechIDZNZ, and this is the IO key that you need to be able to send data to that account from your ESP32. The next thing is, of course, we've got the LED setup, which is a setup from the previous program, and then down here is the very simple setup to actually get it to send data through to, they call it a feed here, but of course it's a topic in terms of MQTT. So the topic is temperature, TEMPR is the abbreviation for it. So basically it's going to read the temperature consistently, and then it's going to send it out. So let's have a look here. Here's the setups for doing the outputs to the LEDs and inputs to from the switches, but I'm not actually using those in this program. You could add anything you like to this. And then there's initialize the display and set it all up and get it going. And then there's the serial commands to actually say we're connecting to Adafruit IO. And then what it does is it waits and puts a dot on the screen for every moment, every 500 milliseconds, that it's waiting for a response to say, hey, I am now connected to Adafruit IO through your Wi-Fi, okay, and through the internet. And then it just shows the status. So if I have a look at the serial communication at the moment, what it's doing is out the serial port, it's actually sending the raw ADC value, 1642, 1644, and then its converted value, which is 22 degrees. If I reset my ESP32, you'll notice that we'll get the reset command, and then there's this delay connecting to Adafruit IO, just a couple of dots. There, it took a second to connect to Adafruit IO, and then it just starts sending the data. So this stuff up here is all to do with the setup of the ESP32. You can ignore that, but basically connecting to Adafruit IO is exactly what we've done here, connecting to Adafruit IO, and then waiting for that connection status to be set up. So this, if you're not got it all set up, the program will just wait here indefinitely and it won't go on. Okay, so let's go on to the actual loop program. Loop program is fairly short. Okay, it requires this IO run command to be part of the loop every time it goes through the loop, and this is so that you can set up this as a subscriber, your ESP32 as a subscriber, so that it will subscribe to messages from Adafruit, which you can set up as triggers and things on the Adafruit side in the server. And basically then what it does is it throws in this delay and says if the time is more than, in our case, I've set this to, back up here, the delay, I've set that to 5,000 milliseconds, so that's 5 seconds. So if the delay is, if it's weighted less than or more than 500 milliseconds past the last time that you did a reading, it will get a reading, and then it will, this feed save to temperature, okay, it's like a C++ command to actually send the temperature to the feed, okay, and so that's the feed or the topic on the broker. And this routine here is fairly self-explanatory to get the temperature. Okay. Basically what it does is it reads the thermistor, which is this function here, which really takes 512 readings and averages them, and then reports that back to here, converts it to a string, and then there's a couple of my little conversion factor between the ADC and the temperature based upon some playing around that I did when I was setting this up and calibrating it initially. You might want to do that and actually figure out what's a little bit more accurate. So you need a thermometer, of course, to measure the ambient air temperature next to the thermistor, and then you can make up your own conversion factor here. And the only thing interesting here is the casting from a double through to an integer form, and the interesting little cast that's done, rather than using any sort of math library to do this, what I've done is add 0.5 to it, which you can think about it, gives you a nice little cast. It gives you a nice little rounding, and then it does the cast. So this is a nice way of doing rounding without using a math library. Okay. And then it just displays these on the display itself. So as you can see on the display, what we're getting is we're getting the word temperature in yellow, and then we're getting the ADC value, the temperature value, and at this moment it's 22. Okay. And what we're getting here is a progress bar, which you can see on the display as well, and that's it. So it's a very simple little program. It's just a matter of making sure that you have a setup which is working. Now the other thing that needs to be put into here is that you need to install the Adafruit Wi-Fi IO Adafruit library. Okay, so again you just go to Tools, you go to Manage Libraries, and what we're looking for there, if I look at the ones that I've got installed, my installed ones, okay, and I scroll down here, I will find that I've got an Adafruit library, Explorer, I think it's just the IO one actually. Wi-Fi is that one there. That's the one. So that's the Adafruit Wi-Fi library to do the I/O, and yeah, I think that's the only one. Oh no, there it is. There's the library there. Adafruit IO Arduino by Adafruit. So you need that. Okay. Now that's going to install a whole bunch of other libraries if you haven't got them installed already. So just let it do all that while you're doing that. This is asking me to update it, so I could update it at this stage, but I won't bother at the moment. So that's getting that ready. What you need to know now is how to connect it to the Adafruit. Okay, so I'm just going to hop over to Adafruit, and at the moment what I've got is I've got a dashboard here, and a dashboard you can have multiple things on it, like I have at the moment just got this sort of bar thing here. So let me just flick back to this display, and if I hold the thermistor here, the temperature here is, it's 23, but and then it's gone to 29. Okay, and if I flick back over to the Adafruit here, it was at 29 briefly, and then it's gone to 27. So it's just cooling back down the thermistor, a bit of thermal mass there, and it'll just settle around 23, 24, whatever the current temperature is. There we go. Now what happens here is you need to set up an account. Okay, so I've got an account, TechID is NZ, that's the name of my account. So you need to actually just go to Adafruit and set up your own account. Okay, and then what you want to do, you've got your profile here, you can look at that, and then what you've got is you've got the feeds. Now the feeds are basically the MQTT broker topics that you're going to go. And I've just got one topic here called temperature, TEMPR. So that's the software that I'm sending in, and here you can actually see as a graph of that value coming in. So this is coming in every 5 seconds. So if as you can see where I did the thermal test and heated it up with my finger, I'm going to do that again now. I'm just going to heat this up, and in about less than 5 seconds it's going to show a higher value. So there we go, we're up at 29 degrees. Okay, now I'm going to let go of it, and there we go, got a second reading at 29 degrees, and you can see the readings coming in. So these are the feed values coming in. Okay, and you can do all sorts of manipulation with this. There's some interesting things you can do with this as well. You can set up triggers, but basically what you want then is a dashboard which will allow you to see the data as it comes in. So I've only got one dashboard here called temperature. Okay, and what you do is this will be blank to start with, and you just come over here, create a new block, and this block will be, let's call this one a line chart. Okay, and I've only got one feed at the moment, so it's just temperature, and so I'm going to do next. It's going to show 24 hours. Okay, I could do 2 hours temperature. I could do 30 days. It would show, ultimately, if I left it long enough, it would show a 30-day graph. X-axis, of course, I want to be time, okay, and here my y-axis I want to be degrees C, and x-axis minimum, I'm going to make that 0, and 40 is my maximum. No decimal places, so that will just create that block. And what's going to happen now is just every reading that comes in, it's going to automatically draw it to the graph. So that's really quite simplistic. Actually, it's not hard to do. This graph will take a little while. If I change this graph back to, let me think. If I go to Edit Dashboard Layout and I edit this one, okay, I just make this. Recorded. Next step, I'm just going to show, instead of 30 days, I'm just going to show live update block. Close that, save it, and so what this is going to do is just draw a live graph of temperature as it comes in. Okay, so that's pretty much it in terms of getting started with this, and then after you've got started, that's that initial hurdle done. And then it's a matter of exploring and playing with these ideas. So you can set up triggers so that you can have some feedback, and that will do things like turn on LEDs, or maybe turn on the buzzer, or make a tune on the buzzer, or something like that in your software. So that's what this is all about, really. Just having a play around, but once you've got that initial sort of hurdle over, then what's going to happen is you're away. And you're running with this, okay? So I hope this has been sort of useful. And so the rest of the online Practorial shows the circuit and how the circuit works, of course, which you should be familiar with by now from the theory in the course. Cool. I hope that's been interesting. Maybe if I do another one of these, I'll add to it. Cheers.